I'm wearing sunglasses in my electric car with my air conditioning on, and it's like, I don't know. It's very appropriate that the week that we swear in as EPA head a climate denier who has 1,400 emails of his. Oh, I'll save that for the broadcast. Sorry.
You're listening to Trigger Warning, challenging talk radio featuring John Ross.
Hello.
And Chris Smith. Hey, it's Trigger Warnings Challenging Talk Radio. It's the week that was, the week that is, and the week that will be, featuring John Ross, live inside an electric car in the heart of American carnage.
I am in an electric car, and it is 70 degrees in the carnage capital of America.
Do you have your air conditioning running?
And I have my electric car-powered air conditioning on. It's like the boy in the bubble. There's not a sound to be heard.
Is your electric car running? You better go catch it, or oh man. All right. Well, I'm glad to hear you're there and safe. Do you consider yourself to be in a safe location?
I'm as safe as it can be in the carnage capital of America.
The inside of your car is a safe space?
Well, I don't have bulletproof glass in the electric car. It was an option that I unfortunately turned down.
No, it was
forgetting
not. That was not
in,
a real option for the Prius.
Forgetting that I lived in the carnage capital of America. But it's technically not my car. It's my wife's car, so I really couldn't. She's away this weekend, so I'm doing my best to save the environment by not using gas if I don't have to.
Wow. Well, John Ross is on the line. I'm Chris Smith. I'm here in the high desert. Aside the nation's first cannabis mall. Did you know that, John? The first ever in the history of the nation. A cannabis mall.
Cannabis mall?
Yes, by definition, what is a mall? It's a large property with smaller stores that are sublet out to, right? And adjacent to is another store, much like the one you were in. Yes.
Yes, it could be.
Every other municipality in Colorado, it's my understanding, passed resolutions where you've got to have space in between cannabis retailers. That is not the case here in the high desert, and therefore you've got one right next to another, right next to another.
So you have cannabis clustering.
It is clustering. And will it lead to cannabis redistricting? The cannabis
district. Sounds like it sounds like, I don't know. It sounds like there might be too much of a cannabis cluster in one mall, that perhaps they need to be segregated, because wouldn't that affect the? I guess it becomes kind of a central location. So maybe it drives the prices down. Maybe it's market friendly.
Well, wouldn't you say? It's like having 3 liquor stores aside each other. Imagine what that would be like or is like in your home or community.
Or 3 Starbucks, because there are locations in America in central cities where you will have Starbucks across the street from one another.
Well, no. The analogy does not follow. That would be like a Starbucks and a Dunkin' Donuts and another third-party coffee a Tim Hortons. Imagine 3 coffee retailers, different brands, but selling the same product in a row on the same block. What's going to happen?
I don't know, but if people start lighting up, I mean, again, I don't know what your outside smoking laws are, but
there are none. It is completely prohibited. There is no public consumption welcome, to my knowledge.
I don't know. It's very well. Now that we have a director at EPA, everything's going to get better on the environmental front. So that even if the consumers in this cannabis cluster all light up at once, I'm sure Director Pruitt will have an answer to ensure that the air is clean and pristine.
Well, for a long time, environmentalists like myself, and I say that having gone to a liberal arts college for undergrad that had declared themselves environmental liberal arts, simply acknowledging the existence of a problem. How many years later, we're still in the same quandary? Do we fully acknowledge the problem of climate change and or humans' impact on the environment? Should I just assume there's not going to be an EPA?
There's not going to be an EPA? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Or that is, they're going to play it like there isn't one.
I don't know if you heard this, but there is an association of EPA staffers, people who work at EPA all over the country, regional office and all that, and 9,000 of them signed a petition, got together, and they were unified in their kind of finger pointing at the new director, Mr. Pruitt, saying, that there's going to be outright resistance to him in the agency if he does things to gut enforcement. So no doubt we will be seeing leaks coming out of EPA. Probably already they're coming. He was sworn in late yesterday, so he is on the job. And what happens is Monday or Tuesday, I believe, those emails that have been unsealed by a court in Oklahoma, what if they prove God knows what? Like what? Of course, the thing is, in this administration, is there such a thing as a smoking gun? The thing is, if you appoint people at all levels to block what other people who are doing, to block the effect of what they're doing, it's almost as if the leak falls in the forest and nobody hears it, and that may be what happens. The case of,
if a leak falls in the forest, does anyone hear it? Did you really? Oh, I did. No. You're listening to Trigger Warnings, challenging talk radio with radical empathy at its core. John Ross and Chris Smith, and we're discussing. John Ross has just coined it. If a leak falls in the forest, does anyone hear it? But John, you're not on Twitter. This program is, but you're not. Did you start following any of the rogue groups that your tax money is paid for, like the Rogue National Park Service or the Rogue White House staff?
I have seen those on emails and other forms of media. The reports of them or their Twitter feeds on other forms of media. So indirectly, yes, I am, and I do get tweets. By the way, I get tweets from somebody named Aunt Lola, and I don't know why Aunt Lola tweets me. I probably by mistake agreed that anybody who was following Trigger Warnings I should follow, and that was a mistake.
Oh, at @T_warnings if you want to get in on the Twitter folly. But John, I don't think a leak can fall in the forest without it being heard. In fact, it's not a leak if it's not heard. And right now we have more ways to hear this nonsense than ever before in the history of humanity.
I agree with that. I agree, and I'm going to ask you is, especially as it relates to the case of General soon going to jail, it would seem, Flynn. are the leaks that are coming from... Oh, may I give you a quiz question? Because you're so good at giving me a quiz question. May I give you a quiz question? This is a multiple choice quiz question.
Okay.
Okay, you ready? Are the leaks around everything that's going on in the White House, but let's just say specifically General Flynn and Russia, are they, a bunch of people playing fun and games because they can, B, a direct quasi-coup by people who are trying to scare the Jesus out of us because they're scared about the new regime, C, completely false and fake and worth being investigated, as the president has suggested, D, absolutely necessary for the preservation of the republic, or E, some combination of the first four?
It is D. The leaks. The leaks are necessary. And I believe that there is a kernel of truth to all of the nonsense that I have heard. There is always likely a kernel of truth. I do not expect, as an end user on the media chain, minus this program and other outlets, I don't expect to have a full understanding. I do believe that anybody that would make up leaks like these would be putting themselves at risk for treason or worse. So
let's be clear. Which leaks are we talking about? That's what I want to know. Where you are now.
You're talking about the leaks that say Flynn was in touch with Russia for a long time, and the White House found out about it 3 weeks prior to anything taking place.
And that he lied about the contact to the FBI when he was interviewed 2 or 3 days into taking office.
Okay, and
yes,
those are the leaks.
Ones that are being yes, those leaks.
Yeah, I think they're necessary.
Do you think that they are a warning, as close to a coup as we have in a country like this, by people in the intelligence community, including those who presumably are afraid to share information with the president because they don't think he's trustworthy? Do you think that there is a quasi-coup going on?
I think that our national relationship with Russia has always been, if anything is, it's always been a cultural construction. There's been a set of ways for me to think about it. There's been a set of things for me to believe. Mikhail Gorbachev was an okay guy because Reagan got along with him, and there's been a legacy of what I'm supposed to think. And I believe that I won't say quasi-coup, but I will say Putin, former KGB agent, has now put a spy ship off of our coast in international waters, and that feels like an old school masculine aggressive move that really destroys that cultural construction of what I'm supposed to think. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to think when I'm told that Mike Flynn was on the phone with Russia in ways that he would later lie about to the FBI. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to think. I really am not. Collusion with that regime is something that I don't have a precedent for.
So if Michael Flynn, the 3-star general, was regarded as perhaps the preeminent intelligence expert in the entire military, which I guess would help explain why he has 3 stars, how could he possibly have been so easily compromised and put in a blackmailable situation unless he was told to do so or strongly encouraged to do so? I mean, if you're that sharp, you don't get compromised that easily working on your own, do you?
And this is where you would like to think the Fourth Estate is salivating. Maybe what it's going to be is the lawyers. I hate to say it, but I said this months ago on this program. If Pizzagate is a lie, why doesn't lawyer Podesta get off his duff and start suing? This is untrue, and you're saying this stuff about me in the press. Why doesn't Mike Flynn say that? Why doesn't somebody sue somebody? And we get to see in a court of law, because we can all eat that media-wise. It's going to be as good for ratings as anything else. But if we went litigious, maybe we'll get more truth out of this than the Fourth Estate is seeking. Because there's a lack of investigative journalism. I don't know why. I really don't know why.
I don't think there's a lack of investigative journalism now. There's a market for it.
Well, there is a market for it, and maybe it's all happening. Maybe tomorrow we get the giant expose that helps me understand everything about collusion with Russia prior to the 2016 election. I want to hear Bernie's name 100 times, and then I want to hear Chapter 12, Donald Trump. I mean, there's got to be a lot of information that we're not privy to. So I'm not about to... I would say that leaks by definition is someone saying this information is so important to the public that I believe I'm going to take a personal risk in putting it out there.
And I agree with you.
And therefore leaks are necessary.
That's happening on a daily basis. I mean, and investigative journalism is harvesting the fruit of that. I think it's very hard at this stage, 4 weeks in. I mean, these stories have started basically, they started before the inauguration, but there clearly is every day practically, there are significant stories that are fed by leaks that are coming out through the investigative media. The Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, the New York Times are in great competition for these, and they seem to be doing a pretty good job. And I guess, but I think your definition of leak is correct, at least in this case, and that's why I'm suggesting that the leaks that are tied to intelligence, I think are clearly are being put out by people in the intelligence community who are sending a message to the public, to the media, that this administration, this president are dangerous. And not dangerous, and the intelligence community is not a left-wing group. That the President of the United States and his emissaries are doing things that by many definitions of spirit of the law, if not literally the letter of the law, but we're working on that, are treasonous, illegal and treasonous. And I don't see how Michael Flynn, as smart and intelligent with a little I, and intelligent with a capital I, supposedly as he is, could have been so readily compromised acting on his own. I mean, it's virtually impossible that he could have been acting on his own. So the question is, who directed him to do these things, including during the campaign, when he was at Trump's side on many, many occasions, and gave Trump a great degree of credibility because he was an established, respected, decorated, so controversial member of the military. How could somebody with that resume and those qualifications be so easily compromised so early? He was either ordered to do it or he was set up. And there aren't that many people who could have ordered him to do it. Agreed?
He was either ordered or set up.
What? He could have been ordered and set up.
I have to go think that you're right. I mean, he's a man of he's well respected. He's been at this a very long time. You don't think there was a dump truck of money involved?
Well, he was compensated quite handily by the Russian government, by RT, the Russian media outlet. He has been recorded and photographed sitting with Putin at meals, and he did get money from the propaganda arm of the Russian government. So,
you know who else RT bought hook, line, and sinker?
I do not.
Larry King. Larry King is now RT's bitch. And as soon as he signed with RT, he made friends with Howard Stern, his longtime enemy, and tried to get Howard to sign on to RT. I heard a replay of the Stern show from November 2016 this week, and he was talking about Larry King's relationship with RT and how he was urging Howard to try to sign on. To what extent does Russia, let's say that there is collusion and they are seeking to affect our society, what do they seek besides chaos? Chaos.
I don't think they need anything. They don't need anything else besides chaos, because chaos comes in many colors. It comes in tapping in. It means that the more you can feed and nurture distrust in long-standing Western institutions, whether it's government or corporations or international organizations or international treaty organizations, like NATO, the more you can do that, the more you can disrupt day-to-day activities, political, economic, the more you can perhaps fertilize those extreme movements, that we've seen come to power and challenge for power in many countries on the far right. I suppose, as in past years, those kinds of propaganda efforts fertilized efforts of divisiveness on the far left. It's just now it seems that they're bringing out the nativists on the right now. So they don't need more than chaos. I mean, if Flaman had a business deal with a private corporation in Russia, run by an oligarch, maybe that would be okay. Although there's really not that much of a difference between the so-called private sector oligarchs and the government. And again, he was put in the only position that he could have gotten, because even a Republican Senate might not have confirmed him to an appointment, a cabinet level appointment, because of his controversy with his dealings with Russians, et cetera. I don't think the Russians need anything more out of these efforts than chaos, because chaos feeds mistrust of the entire system, political, economic, multinational, et cetera. They don't need anything else. They don't really have anything. They don't have a lot of money to put in the process, although this investigation that's being done by all these government intelligence agencies is doing the old, Watergate follow the money routine. And if they find money and they find tracers that link Russia and Trump and the Trump campaign, I think the result is pretty clear.
So more to come.
Although, who knows?
More to come is what you're saying.
Oh, no, I think there's clearly more. It's coming every day. And you realize that it took 3.5 years of stories coming out about the Watergate break-in for that to mature into impeachment and Nixon stepping down. That was when you had 3 television networks, essentially, 3 nightly newscasts, a newspaper-centered media, and
one year of the media during the Nixon administration equals about 90 minutes of our modern media cycle, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly right. We're certainly in that kind of realm right now. So, we've seen a lot. Again, you and I discussed this during the week. When the story came out that the White House had been briefed on, and supposedly through the White House counsel, that it had been briefed on the blackmailable status of Flynn. Forget about that it took 19 days until it had been leaked for this to go public. They said that, and they continue to spin the story, that the problem with Flynn and the problem with what he did was not that he was talking to Russia or even the subject of what he was talking to Russia about, which is the legal question, but that he had lied to the vice president. If we take for granted that what he did was legal, then maybe they have an argument. I don't think we should take for granted that what he did was legal. That's their story. And the reason why they have to say that, because the president has now bought into it and has echoed it, is that if what Flynn did was illegal and the president of the United States knew about it for 19 days and did nothing about it until it leaked, then he is aiding and abetting a felony. That would seem to be an impeachable offense. So they can't acknowledge that what Flynn did was illegal. They can't do that. Because they're admitting, if they do, they're admitting that the president committed something that could be an impeachable act.
Right.
Then the smoking gun is already here. I think maybe that's where another smoking gun could come from, that the president, that they said it was illegal or they knew it was illegal or whatever.
So there is such a thing. There is such a thing as a smoking gun.
There are many smoking guns. Actually, the multiple choice option I did not give you earlier, and I should have, that the leaks are fill in the blank. There has to be a leaker on the inside, at least one, probably more than one. And my sense is that one of the leakers, or a primary leaker in the White House, is the vice president himself.
Ooh. Mike Pence as Deep Throat.
Mike Pence could be Deep Throat. Because, well, first of all, I think there are many Deep Throats.
Do you have a funnier name for Mike Pence as Deep Throat than that? The deepest throat? The deeper throat? I mean, there's got to be something good.
We'll just call him Dag.
Dag?
Dag Pence.
Oh, very nice. Well, look.
But I mean, because that would explain a lot, wouldn't it? That Mike Pence, first of all, Mike Pence is a professional politician. And I'm saying that in a good complimentary sense. Mike Pence knows his way around the federal government, knows his way around Congress, and got lied to. If we believe the story, he got lied to by somebody who had more direct influence to the president, with the president, reporting to the president than he does. And he looked bad. And he doesn't like that, because that's not how you do things. So I think that's one piece. And the second piece is that Mike Pence, as Deep Throat, would speak to the reality that, that he's their guy, the Republican leadership's guy, and the Republican leadership hasn't really been anxious for investigations and independent commissions and all that stuff to happen, because God knows what that might bring up. So it does make sense. And, Mike Pence had to figure when he took this offer that if Trump got elected, there was a very reasonable chance he would be president.
You think that
anyway,
Pence always saw that far ahead?
Well, I mean, just looking on the surface, that the oldest person ever to be elected and, to take office, 70, a McDonald's chugging, non-exercising 70-year-old with that temperament is certainly not, he's certainly not a candidate for, the healthiest body of the year. And, he had to know that this was a little bit of a, the Trump trying to turn Washington on its ear, that's going to be rejected by a lot of people. So I think Mike Pence said, all right, well, if I take the job and somehow he gets elected, pretty good chance that I'm 46. If he wants to be 46.
To what extent has the last few weeks really upset political and social norms? And is any of it irreparable? I mean, I guess nothing's irreparable in this country. I'm that much of a patriot, but it's the social norms that I'm really getting worried about.
Which ones? In particular?
The way that we treat each other, the way that Trump supporters are still, in my experience, rubbing in the nose of the Clinton supporters, and as if their football team won. I fear the cultural norm of, he was my guy and therefore right or wrong. I'm with him, and if you're not with me, then you're wrong, and I'd like to punch you in the nose after a few beers. I fear that, man. I really do.
Well, I think that is to some degree mutual. So that the gap that already existed, the political, cultural, socioeconomic gap, on that account, I think has only widened. And I think the bigger issue, and this does play back into the leaks and the political stuff, I think that it's fine on the surface for a new guy to come in and say, I'm going to reinvent the culture of this town. Good luck trying it. The problem is the way he's done it. I mean, forget about individual attacks against people, because that's, that we don't have enough time. There's not enough bandwidth for us to discuss that. But that Trump has come in and incessantly attacked three groups in particular: the media, the courts, and the intelligence community. And the thing is that they're getting them. They're getting them back. That's not how you change Washington, because the media don't go away. I don't think you can outlaw them or even try. It doesn't matter what you do to them in the White House. They're still going to work and do their job. And because there's a lot of money now in doing what they're doing, the intelligence community, you can put some billionaire, investor in to look at what's happening in the intelligence community and try to clean house. But the people who are career intelligence officers, and put their lives on the line, they're you can't stop them. They're going to do their job. And judges are appointed for life, and they're going to do their job. So the thing is that the three groups he's gone after, personally, they're getting them. That's not how you reform anything. He picked the wrong groups to go after if he thought he was going to change the culture of Washington. If he wants to solidify a base of 38-40%, okay, that's smart. I'm not sure how he gets, the other 5, 8, 10% he needs to govern. But that's not the way to fix Washington, because they are permanent structures, and they're acting like permanent structures, whether it's through just checks and balances, or going above and beyond, which is what they all seem to be doing now. And so I think it's fine rhetorically to say you're going to do that, and even politically to say you're going to do that. The problem is if you start trying to change the whole culture of Washington by insulting whole groups of not groups of people, but groups of professionals, you're not going to get there. And he's not going to get there. So he's going to be stuck. He's going to be stuck at this for a long time. And it's part of, what you said, the way we treat each other. He's not treating anybody with respect. He can't. He may be pathologically.
Why can't he? Psychologically, he's unable?
Because I think he's pathologically incapable of doing it. I think he is.
Is that your professional opinion?
My professional opinion is as a policy person and political wonk and communicator. I don't have the capacity, although many people are diagnosing him for the purpose of the 25th Amendment of having mental health, being mentally ill. And I think he has a lot of signs of that. But that's not the point. He is pathological in his approach to other people. He does not listen. He has no interest in listening. He doesn't even listen to a question from an Orthodox Jew about, why people are threatening Jewish institutions, and he makes it like it has something to do with him. Nobody accused him of threatening Jewish community centers. I don't think anybody accused him of that.
You're listening to Trigger Warnings, Challenging Talk Radio. John Ross is sitting in his electric car in the heart of American carnage, and I'm Chris Smith here in the high desert. And
where you're from, high desert means something completely different.
Oh, it means all kinds of things. I mean, I bring this to the table now. I paid 40 cents for this essay that was torn out of a book. I don't know where the book is. The bookstore here in the high desert was having a sale, so it was 40 cents instead of the dollar. And it's by Leslie Spear. And the essay is Some Aspects of the Nature of Culture. And John, I'm going to read you a paragraph, and I want to get your response. But you're still sitting in your car there.
I am sitting in my car in Carnage America gridlock.
What? Oh, are you? You're not driving?
No, I'm driving. Yes, I have to be going someplace.
Oh, you're in motion. That's wonderful.
I am. Well, right now I'm not in much motion, but yes.
What is
theoretically I am moving.
What is your definition of a road hog?
A road hog?
Yes. What is your definition of a road hog?
Isn't a road hog someone who either drives, straddles lanes, or has a vehicle so large that it essentially is taking up more than its dedicated space on the road?
Well,
isn't that what a road hog is?
I think you're there. I bring you this paragraph now from Leslie Spear, Some Aspects of the Nature of Culture. These were notes from the first annual research lecture at the University of New Mexico, 1954. But it's driving, and you're driving, so this is fun. When you drive your car hurling down the road and an oncoming juggernaut looms before you, your life and limb are saved from catastrophe, not only by your own quick appraisal of the situation, your judgment and split-second reaction, but basically by the well-grounded assumption that both you and your opponent will abide by the rule of the road, staying on the right. When you are worming your way through downtown Chicago in the heart of American carnage, you gauge the position of your car, its speed and impetus, and the placement and speed of all other cars around you, and you guess at the intentions of their drivers, all in a series of spontaneous reactions. Let me make an overdramatic statement. Your culture may save your life many times a day. What each individual bring what get ready. What each individual brings to the situation is some element of choice. To drive in front or behind another car, and inevitably a variant in capacity for judgment and in speed of reaction. But we are able to proceed through the snarl because our judgments are based on implicit faith that we and the other fellows will follow the rule of the road. The individual choices and the individual responses run like an epicyclic ripple. Epicyclic ripple. How do you like that? On the socially, that is
Epicyclic ripple.
epicyclic ripple. The individual choices and the individual responses run like an epicyclic ripple on the socially, that is culturally, determined habits of driving on the right and yielding the right of way. This is brought home most emphatically when John Ross is confronted by traffic at an intersection in the heart of American carnage, where there are no control lights or police people to direct him. Anarchy is not then with John, except in the person of the occasional road hog. On the contrary, we are such creatures of habit that we follow a confirmed pattern of behavior without even pausing to recognize that we may be free to do as we please.
Okay.
I would stress.
That's a very.
What
an interesting disquisition on driving.
Isn't it, though? Again, it's Leslie Spear, 1954, Some Aspects of the Nature of Culture. This is a tenet of cultural anthropology, especially later on her notes on language. If you, like many Americans, reread 1984 recently, I encourage you to track down Leslie Spear, Some Aspects of the Nature of Culture, as how politics can change language is critical. Yeah, what's your take, John? You're still driving.
How interesting is I'm sitting here in like moving at snails would beat me in a sprint race as slow as I'm moving right now. So it's interesting to digest that. Although I guess, my guess is that Leslie Spear's essay is as much an analog as it is meant to be taken literally. But I guess when you're driving, you do have a sense of trust of your fellow drivers that they will obey basic traffic laws and not run the light and not take up more than one lane, etc., or be unnecessarily distracted while driving that would endanger you or that driver or anybody else on the road. So I guess there is some truth to what is it Dr. Spear says? Are we sure?
I think we could go there. I'm up for giving out the first ever honorary doctorate here on Trigger Warnings Challenging Talk Radio.
Well, I mean, are you sure that Leslie Spear is a woman?
No, not at all.
Well, you referred to Leslie Spear as a she.
Well, I'm playing it safe. Or not. What's the appropriate pronoun here in the nebulous I don't know category?
Dr. Spear. Let's indoctrinate Dr. Spear, and therefore we don't have to worry about a pronoun that could bother people.
Here's a sentence that is doctorate deserving. Ready? And this sums up not just the culture of driving, but culture. Remember, the thesis is your culture saves your life, probably many times a day. Your culture may save your life many times a day. The unvoiced concepts of our language, provided as part of our culture, rule our every action of the day. We are unwitting slaves to predetermined patterns of logic, of ideals, and of aims. to an extent that we do not even begin to comprehend, and we're still watching Andy Griffith. That's what it says here. No, it doesn't say that. But it could.
Does not.
It could. Predetermined pattern of logic, of ideals, and of aims. I'm in on that. Will you accept that as a definition of culture?
Predetermined logic of aims?
Predetermined pattern of logic, of ideals, and of aims, comma, to an extent.
I would not call it predetermined. I would call it a governing or consensus rather than predetermined. It is not always easy to figure out what the culture is or what the dominant culture is. Therefore, calling it predetermined, I would argue, is unnecessarily positional. It assumes a position of majority culture status.
Yes.
Is it not?
Yes.
It not?
No, you won. 3 pages later.
Did I win?
You did win. You
Yes,
won.
I did. That PhD means something. It does. Call me Dr. Ross, damn it.
Well, I will, Dr. Ross, because 3 pages later, our now newly ordained Dr. Spear goes on to identify how, yeah, you can't, cultural dominance, even identifying culture, is itself a subjective action. What is the term for when, let me see, the growth and complexity results for the greater part from imitation of traits of adjacent but different cultures? Let me rewind a moment for you to get some context for that, but we're coming up on a big vocab word, and that's what you won, your prize.
Oh, a big. Okay, I got positional. That was good.
You did. Actually, 1954. I don't know if that had come into play just yet, but Spear does coin a very important term here that I think we need to understand. Cultures as a whole form take by accretion and internal adjustment of their parts. Your culture is accreting right now there in your electric car, John, just so you know.
You know, I need to get something for that accretion, because I hear they have some very, very good drugs for that now, for cultural accretion.
That's right. Doubtless, many people see the building of a particular culture primarily as the result of internally developed inventions like an electric car, whether material or in the realm of ideas like an expensive PhD. But this is not so, says Spear, The growth and complexity of culture results, for the greater part, from imitation of traits of adjacent but differing cultures and from an endless repetition of patterns. The culture of your next-door neighbors may become something like your culture. Your culture may become something like the next-door neighbors. Yes?
So culture, by Dr. Spear, and I'm now using the term doctor very liberally, therefore, so there is no dominant culture. It's just whatever culture feels right to you that you can then use to populate or be populated by vis-a-vis your neighbor.
That's right. And here's the paragraph to put in your political playbook. This is eminently characteristic of all cultures. Basic elements and details are shared with others over lesser and wider areas indicative of historical relations among them, but the integrating principles are never quite the same. Hence, the uniqueness of a culture appears on inspection rather an illusion. One more time. The uniqueness of a culture appears on inspection rather an illusion. For the most part, it is the final kaleidoscopic image, assemblage that is unique.
Do you have a song for that? Do you have a song for that, Dr. Banjo?
Yes. The banjo, it jumped up and started playing itself. Hey, that process of your neighbor's culture inflicting itself upon yours and vice versa. What's the term, John? Will you give me a
appropriation, cultural appropriation.
Close.
Yep.
Close. Not in 1954,
Expropriation?
according to Speer. No, it was
Expropriation?
diffusion.
That's not what diffusion means.
Oh.
Diffusion means it breaks into 1,000 pieces and it spreads its seed.
Oh, shuck. Well, that's why this was 40 cents.
No, appropriation is much better.
Hey, that was good though.
Expropriation.
I think that it's important to think in a larger and theoretical frame about what's happening to our culture. And yes, we're chasing down an elusive term. But what we talked about earlier in the program, the incessant attacks on media, the courts, the intelligence community, and how each one of those three branches are growing fangs and finding ways to draw blood. This is culture. This is a different kind of culture than I knew, that I have known anyway.
I think it's safe to say that those institutions have always had their cultures, and I guess if we are to interpret, again, generously what Dr. Speer, and I have now Germanized Dr. Speer.
Yeah, what's up with that? What is that kind of diffusion?
Because I think there's a good reason to do that. I think these organizations have always had their cultures. I mean, even Gorsuch, when he talked to some of the senators during his courtesy visits after his appointment, when he suggested that what the president said about the courts was disheartening, is because he spoke to a community, a brotherhood, a culture among judges that, there's a reason why they have lifetime appointments, so that they retain their independence and their judicial supremacy, or their judicial independence and supremacy, at least in terms of the Supreme Court. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why they do that. And if we challenge or violate or threaten that tradition, that culture, it has real ramifications. And I think, to his credit, I don't know what his confirmation hearings will be like on this point, but to his credit, he spoke to that culture that is sacred. I don't think he spoke it in terms of driving a car down the road and trusting that the other branches of government will see you coming and not hit you head on. Because if we're using Dr. Speer's paper as an analogy for something here, clearly where we are now is, a NASCAR track in the last 5 laps when the drivers get really angry and it's now every man or every team for itself. So, if we want to use Dr. Speer's analogy in that direction, I actually think that would be a good way to speak to it. That what's happening now in Washington is this sense of different cultures are taking their cars out on the road, and there is now no respect for that otherwise established presence of respecting, having basic driver's etiquette. There is not driver's etiquette going on now in Washington under this regime.
Well, you know what? Basic driver's etiquette is one thing, but I want to focus on what Speer was identifying, that, you're safe. Your culture is saving your life because there are expectations of behavior amongst the other people on the highway that John is on right now. What Speer identifies is the road hog. And no member of the executive branch or the judicial branch or the congressional branch is allowed to be a road hog. I'd like to say that nobody in the Fourth Estate should be a road hog. Unfortunately, road hogs get attention, and attention gets ratings. And that's how you end up with a reality show president. It's not the cultural norms. We all know that they're there. And if people are driving outside, if we're driving on the sidewalk to try to get around what's going on in the street, that's what we're doing, and you're only doing it because the person in front of you is. But what we're talking about is the road hog, the person who is causing the disruption in the middle of the street, that's causing all of us to understand how our norms are being challenged. I like that. I like thinking that
Okay, so I think you did a much better job and a very adequate, more than adequate job of taking the road hog analogy into our current political culture.
Thank you.
Because I think you're suggesting that we do have a road hog, and that other drivers are fighting back
That's right.
at the road hog. Not only because the road hog is trying to hog the road, but because he's announcing it and suggesting that others don't really belong on the road with him at the same time.
I mean, you're welcome to carry the analogy as far as you'd like. I'm looking over an intersection right now here in the small town in the high desert and imagining, a road hog. What, trying to do a 10-point turn with his Lincoln Town Car limo in the middle of this cute little intersection without a stoplight. And behind him is the Senate Majority Leader driving what, John? I don't know. And he's not going to get not behind him, but he's going to wait there while everybody else who's trying to get around this whole fiasco is up on the sidewalk and everything else. But some people are stopping to look, as we all do. And some people are trying to get the hell away.
I don't know what car Mitch McConnell's driving, but I can tell you that he is the one blocking the shoulders so the emergency vehicles can't get there.
Oh, see, the metaphor could go on and on today. Thank you, Dr. Spear. I think that was 40 cents well spent.
And Paul Ryan is blocking the other lane that the emergency vehicles would get to find out what's really going on. And the problem is that unless the emergency vehicles have Batmobile capacity, it's going to be very difficult for them to get to the scene of the crime.
True. Exactly.
So there you go. There's your culture analogy, Buster.
Thank you. Yes. President
and
Roadhog.
I want to thank you for articulating that in English, much less, far better than Dr. Spear.
Oh. Dr. Spear had a cultural frame of reference that was Ozzie and Harriet, Andy Griffith, and segregated water fountains. So
Dr. Spear sounds like Dr. Spear spent too much time looking for Martians at Roswell. Because Dr. Spear was in New Mexico.
Yes. But look, Dr. Spear was in New Mexico 1954. That gets a pass. Hey, let's move on now here on Trigger Warnings to this week's quiz. John, are you ready?
I am ready because I am almost where my ultimate destination is taking me because I finally got out of gridlock traffic in the carnage center of America.
All right, we're going to move quick. We're going to move quick.
I put the gun away. and put the clip on it.
Okay.
Because I'm no longer nervous because it wasn't the other drivers on the road were a problem. It was that I'm in the carnage capital of America.
So, question 1, who said, everyone that drives slower than you is an idiot, and everyone that drives faster than you is a maniac? Was it A, Dennis Miller, B, Al Franken, or C, George Carlin?
George Carlin.
It was George Carlin. Question 2, what's the name of the new Democratic group that's working towards the midterm elections that was announced this week? Is it A, We Will Rock You, B, We Will Replace You, or C, All Pigs Will Be Eaten?
We will replace you.
Yes. Question 3, who won? Mar versus Milo. Was it A, HBO, B, HBO, or C, HBO?
It was all of the above, and I have to say that I watched that last night, and I have a question. Who was the guest who refused to come on the show because Milo was on?
I don't... Me. Fake news. It was me. Question 4. Give me.
We cannot comment on Milo.
What do you want to say? Go for it. You know how much of a fan of Bill Maher I am.
I watched it. I thought Bill Maher was. Look, this was a week where, it's that the left just seems, and this is in Chicago. 2 incidents in Chicago. Corey Lewandowski, who's an idiot, where there were demonstrations at University of Chicago because David Axelrod was going to interview him. Demonstration. There are demonstrations. It gets even better. Demonstrations here in Naperville. Naperville is a suburb, 40 miles west of Chicago, a very conservative suburb. Naperville, I believe, is actually the second largest city by population in Illinois. And every July 4th, Naperville has a rib fest. All these restaurants, people come from all over the Midwest. They bring their rib recipes, and it goes to charity, and you eat ribs, and they have music events. And Toby Keith, is the country singer, is announced as one of the acts. And there were protests in Naperville that Toby Keith, because he performed at the Trump inauguration, is too political to be performing in Naperville and should not be there. So what I will say about Milo and Maher is the way you beat these idiots. I don't even put Toby Keith in there.
Is your blinker on, John? Is your blinker on?
It is. Wait, my hazards are on. I've turned my hazards off.
Because this is when you started talking about Milo, you decided to turn on your hazard lights? No,
is that the idiots of the world, the Milos, the Lewandowskis, etc. They lose when you let them speak their ridiculous ideas in public. Milo wasn't even ridiculous. He was just very gay. And I'm very happy about being very gay and having a very fine chat with Bill Maher. And, if this is what is going to take the left down and is going to take the rest of us who care about important things down with them, because it is such an easy target for the reactionary right or the low information voter who only thinks about politics once every 4 years, because it's going to get in all this political correctness crap. It's ridiculous. Interview Milo. Let Milo make a fool of himself. Anyway, question 4. I'm sorry. I hate to spoil my perfect record.
Question 4. John, no, please. I appreciate it. I don't like Bill Maher, never have, so I don't know what I was talking about, except I knew HBO won. Question 4. Fill in the blank. Give me your tired, your poor, your blank yearning to breathe free. Is it A, huddled masses, B, massive huddle, C, hidden missive, or D, missive hiddle?
E, Benny Hill.
Question 5. McMurry University in Texas, a Christian college, announced this week it will devote space for Muslim students to pray. What denomination does McMurry University identify with? Is it A, Lutheran, B, Methodist, C, Episcopal, or D, Congregational/unaffiliated?
Is Methodist one of the options?
Yes, Methodist was option B.
Methodist. The answer is Methodist.
It is. Question 6. According to McMurry University's website, what percentage of the faculty hold terminal degrees? Is it A, 67, B, 57, C, 47, or D, 7?
47.
No, I'm sorry. The answer is 77. It's not even on here.
Good.
Yeah, isn't that great? Again, McMurry University, check that out. According to a January...
Is that Fred McMurray's University and My Three Sons?
According to a January... all right, thank you. Yes, that's wonderful. According to Dr. Flubber, is staging. According to a January 19th, 2017 article in The College Fix, what college or university dedicated a separate lunchroom for Muslim women? Is it A, the University of Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, B, UCLA main campus, C, Middle Tennessee State University, or D, the University of Kansas?
University of Kansas.
Yes! Good job. Question 5.
I read that somewhere, yes.
Question 5. This is a long quote followed by the question. Ready? When a government entity like the University of Iowa creates prayer areas for specific religions and imposes religious rules upon students, removing shoes, segregating men and women, it has unconstitutionally entangled itself with religion. The university finds itself in a position where it must either sponsor and endorse the tenets of a religion by allowing it to impose religious rules or dictate to religious students which tenets they are allowed to follow on university property. What prompted the University of Iowa administration to issue a memo that contained that quote? Was it A, discord through a series of editorials in the student newspaper between the Muslim Student Alliance and a chapter of the University of Iowa Campus Republicans? Was it B, a Christian group's use of the school cafeteria for services during times when the facility was especially busy? Was it C, pagan students insisting on the right to go barefoot on campus? D, atheist students insisting on the right to go bare-chested on campus? Or E, tensions surrounding a designated prayer/meditation space on campus?
Well, it's either A or E. I would say A.
It's actually E. University of Iowa, designated prayer/meditation space. Does that make it a mosque? That's their question. Ask Google for more. Question number 8. How did Betsy DeVos, born Elizabeth D. DeVos, get her middle name? A, Dee Snider of Twisted Sister is her godfather. B, both her parents had a stutter and the doctor heard them wrong. C, it was confirmed by a 50-49 margin that night at the hospital. Or D, quote, D, da, that's all I have to say to you.
Wow, those are really good choices. I don't know what to say. What was the first one?
Dee Snider of Twisted Sister.
No, it's not Dee Snider. It's not Dee Snider. It's the stuttering.
You know what? That's a terrible thing to say, John. I don't know which is the right answer, but I can't imagine. That's a horrible joke to make about our education secretary's parents.
Well, if it's not the D, then then you have to know the right answer.
There is no right answer. There is no right answer. Isn't that fun? Get ready. Here's another one.
So her name is Elizabeth D. DeVos. Is that right?
With D as in dog. E. Yes, D. DeVos. Elizabeth D. DeVos. DeVos worked tirelessly during Michigan Governor Granholm's 16 months in office. How did the Lansing State Journal describe Betsy DeVos during this time? A, quote, a fierce and self-appointed raptor. B, quote, a tenacious bird of prey. C, a political pit bull. Or D, a phony.
She worked under Governor Granholm. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Not with her, against her.
Oh, well, she was probably the last one.
No, it was actually a political pit bull.
Well, I'm sure, but that could be the same thing.
I thought a fierce and self-appointed raptor was a pretty good turn of phrase.
I like that. Yeah.
I made that up. What two candidates did Elizabeth D. DeVos donate to before getting on board the Trump train? Was it A, Rubio and Christie, B, Christie and Kasich, C, Fiorina and Rubio, or D, Fiorina and Kasich?
Well, I'm pretty sure that one of them was Cruz. So is that the answer? Wasn't that one of the answers?
No, there is a right answer here.
How about Fiorina and Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush?
Well, according to Wikipedia, Fiorina and Rubio, Betsy DeVos donated to...
No, according to my Wikipedia, it says she initially donated to Jeb Bush and Carly Fiorina before eventually supporting Marco Rubio. In March 16th, she described Donald Trump as an interloper and said that he does not represent the Republican Party.
All right. Get ready to Google the answer to this one, John. I doubt it knows.
No, I'm not.
Get ready.
Because I was looking up what the D meant. I was looking at where the D came from. That was why I was on her Wikipedia page.
What will be the most popular saying of the summer of 2017? A, it's not the heat, it's the humidity. B, it's not the sunburn, it's the radiation sickness. C, what time are they turning the power grid on this week? Or D, come and see the violence inherent in the system.
Oh, that's brilliant. I certainly hope it's come and see the violence inherent in the system. I fear that it will be B, or as Betsy DeVos would say, I fear that it will be B.
All right, we got to roll on here. John McCain remains an important and outspoken voice in Congress. What was the final electoral college tally when McCain ran against Obama in 2008?
Oh, let's see. Obama got, was it 371 to 167?
Yes, that's right. It was 365 to 173.
365.
Who said this? Ready? Who said this regarding a rule?
Yes,
a rule that would require overtime for workers who clock over 40 hours a week. Quote, this new rule will simply add to the extensive regulatory maze the Obama administration has imposed on employers, forcing many to offset increased labor expense by cutting costs elsewhere. In practice, this means reduced opportunities, bonuses, benefits, perks, and promotions. And you got it right off. It was Andy Pudzer.
Pudzer!
What was the name of the 1990 Oprah Winfrey episode on which appeared Andy Pudzer's ex-wife, Lisa Firestein? Was it A, the rich, the powerful, and the abusive? Is it B, battered high-class women? Or was it C, high-class battered women? Or D, Oprah's shows didn't have names?
Oprah's shows didn't have names. D, that was a great question.
No, the answer, I'm sorry, the answer is C, high-class battered women.
Really? I thought it was like Friends, you know, the one with the high-class battered women.
No.
The one with, but that doesn't.
Who said this? Quote, never take a no from somebody who isn't in a position to give you a yes in the first place.
Oh, it's a great quote.
Was that A, Sean Spicer, B, Ronald Reagan, C, Sandra Day O'Connor, D, Oprah Winfrey, or E, Hillary Clinton?
Who was B?
Ronald Reagan.
That has kind of a homespun-y feel to it that has Reagan written all over it. I'm going to go with my first instinct and say it's Andrew Pudzer is not one of the options.
No, Sean Spicer is.
Ronald Reagan.
Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, please.
Who called who, quote, the primary satirical voice in the country in 2004? Was it A, Bill O'Reilly calling Jon Stewart that? Was it Jon Stewart calling Bill O'Reilly that? Was it Dan Aykroyd calling Jon Stewart that? Or was it Dan Aykroyd calling Lorne Michaels that?
It was C.
No, it's Dan Aykroyd saying that about Lorne Michaels, the primary satirical voice in the country. Who said this? This week. Quote, a lot of the same patterns we've seen during the Iranian Green Revolution and the Arab Spring. This person has clout to be able to speak in sentence fragments. Was it D, Charles Krauthammer? C, Noam Chomsky? B, a representative of Facebook in a press release? Or A, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey?
I'm not really good with sentence fragment quotes.
A lot of the same patterns we've seen during the Iranian Green Revolution and the Arab Spring. Was that the CEO of Twitter, a representative of Facebook, Noam Chomsky,
Facebook,
or Charles Krauthammer?
It was part of Mark Zuckerberg's 5,700-word tome.
No, that was Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey. You have 3 more questions to redeem yourself. According to a February 14 Associated Press report, casino revenues in Atlantic City are A, up 15% from 1 year ago, B, down 3% from 1 year ago, C, up almost 8% from 1 year ago, or D, down almost 12% from a year ago.
Down 12%. Nobody wants to go to Atlantic City.
No, up 8%. Over the last year, internet gambling facilitated by Atlantic City casinos is up, based on final revenue, 10%, 15%, 20%, or more than 20%.
You know why? Because you didn't do that question in sentence fragments. That was my problem. Okay, I appear to be irredeemable.
Internet gambling facilitated by Atlantic City casinos is up how much? Take a guess, percentage-wise.
30%.
28%. And your final question.
I got credit. Okay.
Who said this in 2010? Quote, we want to help develop human capital and leverage that capital to the greatest extent possible. Was it A, Mitt Romney, B, Clint Eastwood, C, Oprah Winfrey, D, Hillary Rodham Clinton, E, Mike Flynn?
Mitt Romney.
No, I'm sorry. The answer is Betsy DeVos. Welcome to the new educational paradigm where your tests and quizzes... I know. It's fun.
See, the problem with the culture is, I'm driving, I'm looking out for all the cars on the road, and then you hit me over the head with a car that wasn't on the road. That's the problem.
Hey, I've done a good job with that quiz of providing an example of what a road hog would do if their job was not to drive a car, but in fact to make up silly quizzes. I'm giving John an unfair shake at success.
And I am now at my friend's house because I'm getting rid of you and your unfair question.
Thanks for tuning in, folks. This has been Trigger Warnings, Challenging Talk Radio with radical empathy at its core. John Ross and Chris Smith. John, catch you next week.
Are we doing an Oscar show or something, some mock-up thereof?
Yes, get ready, folks, we'll be doing senior superlatives as if we're the graduating class of 2017, giving out awards like Most School Spirit, Best Use of the G Chord, and so much more. John, have a great night.
Oh, you too, Dr. Smith.